We will be now studying mechanical properties for dental materials. So, what are mechanical properties? They are actually properties following the law of mechanics. The outline for the topic would include definition of mechanical properties. We will look at the concept of stress and strain, which we will look at in today's lecture. We will also be doing in detail the strength properties and properties related to the elasticity, such as the elastic modulus and resilience. We'd also be doing properties related to plasticity, which is the ductility, brittleness of the material, and other properties such as toughness and hardness. Mechanical properties of tooth structure and stress concentration factors. So let's start with the definition of mechanical properties. Mechanical properties are defined by the law of mechanics, that is the physical science that deals with energy and forces and their effects on the body. Now, why do we study mechanical properties for dental materials? Because whatever materials we use in dentistry should be sufficiently strong that whatever biting forces come on it, they should be rigid enough to withstand those forces and maintain their same shape under load. So for understanding these properties, let's consider the concept of stress and strain. What is stress? Stress is the force per unit cross-sectional area which is acting on the material and the resistance of that material to this load. So stress is equal to force upon area, which is the cross-sectional area. In dentistry, the units for stress are Newton per meter square, which is equal to Pascal. So, mechanical properties, the stress is given in Pascal or megapascal in dentistry. So for example, let's look at this figure that you see here. When a force is used to pick the material, what you have is, if the force is say 3000 pounds and the cross-sectional area of the material is half inch and half inch, the stress would be 3000 pounds upon half inch into half inch, and the answer would be 12,000 psi, that is pounds per square inch. So the units for stress are either pounds per square inch or you have megapascal. Megapascal is when you're using the unit for force in kilonewtons and the area is measured in centimeter by centimeter. So you have kilonewton over centimeter by centimeter, which is megapascal. So another figure, the force is 3000 pounds, but the area now is 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch. So the stress is more because the area is less. So the force is the same, 3000 pounds, but the area is 1/4 by 1/4. So if you see here, stress is directly proportional to force and inversely proportional to the cross-sectional area. So if the force increases for that same cross-sectional area, then as the force increases, the stress is more. If the area decreases, the stress is more because it is inversely proportional to the cross-sectional area. So stress is directly proportional to force, inversely proportional to cross-sectional area. The basic types of stress produced are tensile, compressive, and shear. So what is a tensile stress? A tensile stress is a stress which is caused by a load that tends to stretch or elongate a body. For example, if you're eating a sticky candy that exerts and you're having a crown in your lower molar, it will tend to pull the crown. So that's a tensile force on the crown. So example of tensile stress in dentistry is having a sticky candy which tends to pull out the restoration or the crown. So this is the example. If you see here, a sticky candy can be used to remove crowns when the patient, so these are the crowns in the patient's mouth. When the patient's eating a sticky candy, you have a tensile force that tends to pull this upwards. Okay. Compressive stress. Compressive stress is a stress which is placed on a load, which is a stress placed on a body which tends to shorten it. The internal resistance to such a load is called as compressive. So compressive is when you're trying to compress it. Tensile is when you're trying to pull it. Shear stress. Shear stress tends to resist the sliding or the twisting of one portion of a body over the other. For example, if you're having an orthodontic bracket and you're flicking it with an instrument parallel to the interface between the tooth and the bracket, that's the example of a shear force in dentistry. Now, shear stress in dentistry. So now we are looking at flexural stress. So what is flexure? You're trying to flex it. So you have different kind of flexural stress created in a 2-unit bridge, and let's see the flexural stress created in a 3-unit bridge. What is a 2-unit cantilever bridge? It is a bridge where this tooth is replaced and this crown is bonded to this tooth. So taking the support of this tooth, you have a missing tooth which is replaced. This is 2-unit. So it is taking support only from this one tooth. So when you put force on this bridge, it is tending to cause tension because this is unsupported. So it's causing tension at the top and compression at the bottom. That is the example of flexural stress in a 2-unit bridge. If you see a 3-unit bridge, this 3-unit bridge is supported on both ends. You have it supported on both ends and the middle tooth is replaced. So you're taking support from 2 teeth and you're replacing the middle tooth. This middle tooth is being replaced and taking support of the front tooth and the back tooth. So when force is placed on this, it will cause compression at the top and tension at the bottom. So it will compress from the top and tension at the bottom. So this is the example of flexural stress in a 3-unit bridge. Now let's look at strain. So when you're subjecting a material to either a tensile stress or a compressive stress, there will be a temporary change in length of that material. Okay, that is the strain in the material. So for example, when you subject it to tensile stress, it temporarily becomes longer by a certain amount. This temporary increase in length is called the strain. So strain is a dimensionless quantity because we are dividing unit length by unit length, computed as increase in length divided by the original length. So it's written as centimeter by centimeter or inch by inch, or it is expressed in percentage. So the diagram indicating how magnitude of stress and strain are calculated. So if you look at this object, that's the cross-sectional area, that's the force on the object, and you have a change in length. It's getting reduced as the force is compressing it. So this change in length upon the original length is the strain. The stress is the force upon the cross-sectional area, and the change in length upon the original length is the strain in the material. If you tend to elongate the object, okay, if force is applied and it is elongating the object, again stress is the force upon the cross-sectional area and the strain is the increase in length upon the original length. That is the strain. So stress and strain are interrelated. The application of an external force produces stress within a material, resulting in change in dimension or strain within the body. So this is a typical stress strain graph. You can use a stress strain graph by putting a material under a compressive test or a tensile test. When you're putting it under compression, the stress you're applying and the strain in that object is computed and a stress strain graph is obtained till the point where the material fractures either by compression or by tension. So if you look at a typical stress strain graph, till the elastic portion of the graph. What is elastic portion of the graph? When there is a change in the object, so you're having a strain, but when you leave the stress, it is going back to its original shape. That is elastic. So the object is going back to its original shape is elastic deformation. When the stress is beyond that, there will be some amount of permanent deformation remaining in the material, and that is the plastic deformation in the material, when some amount of permanent deformation. So elastic deformation is when the material, you remove the stress and the material comes back to the original shape. So as you're increasing the stress, you're computing the strain in the material till the elastic deformation. Beyond that, you're again computing stress against strain till the material ultimately fractures. If you're doing it under tensile testing, this will be, the endpoint will be the ultimate tensile strength of the material. If you're doing it under compression testing, it will be the ultimate compressive strength of the material. So what, if you check in the graph, what is proportional limit? It is the highest stress at which stress is proportional to strain. That is called as the proportional limit. If a material follows Hooke's law, elastic stress will be proportional to elastic strain. So along the straight line of the material, stress is proportional to strain. The material behaves elastically and it goes back to its original shape when the force is released. The elastic limit. So beyond the proportional limit, when stress is proportional to strain, till that point is the elastic limit. The proportional limit. A little beyond that is the elastic limit. The elastic limit is the greatest stress to which the material can be subjected such that it returns to its original dimension when the force is released. So when stress is proportional to strain, it goes till the point of proportional limit. A little beyond that is the elastic limit. When the stress is released, the material is going to go back to its original shape. But to test the elastic limit, you will always need to put the force, release it. So rather than that, you have a yield stress value. What is the yield stress? Is the stress beyond which material strain is not fully recovered. So some amount of permanent deformation remains, arbitrarily 0.002% or 0.2%. So the yield strength of a material is always slightly higher than the elastic limit. So you have first the proportional limit, then the elastic limit, and then the yield stress, where some amount of permanent deformation remains. So the ultimate tensile stress or shear or compressive strength is the measure of the stress required to fracture the material. So the stress-strain relationship, there is a linear relationship between stress and strain up to point P. Further increase in stress causes greater increase in strain until the material fractures at a point T. The stress corresponding to point T is the fracture stress. In tensile test, it is a value of tensile stress. If you are doing compressive testing, it is a value of the compressive stress. So let's do the strength properties in the next lecture. Next lecture we will be covering all the strength properties of the material.